Hello and welcome to another edition of Paging Dr. Islam. I'm Sandra Eichenberg, your host, and of course, the ever knowledgeable Dr. Samir Islam is here to spread the knowledge.
Yes, I'm going to do as best I can, Sadie. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I am attacked by the allergy bug. My goodness, this weekend was rough. My nose is stuffed. I've been trying to decongest myself, so I'm just recovering. So please excuse me if I sound very nasally today.
No problem. I feel like that's a lot of people right now. Did it come in with the wind, do you think?
I think the wind and this time of the year it tends to be the high pollen season. So always at this time of the year, my nose gets stuffed, I start sneezing, my eyes itch, and so I have to double up on my allergy medications, and it just ends up being a mess. But luckily, I feel like I'm on the road to recovery. But man, this weekend was tough. It was rough for me.
I'm so glad you're on the road to recovery. A lot of us, me included, I'm sure it's going to happen soon. Allergies. What are some of your best remedies now that you're in the mix of it?
Yeah, I know. So I guess number one, don't go outside if you can help it, but obviously you can't. So, you want to be proactive. So, taking an allergy medication over the counter certainly helps out. Another trick that I recommend is nasal sprays. So nasal sprays are fantastic. In fact, they're one of the most effective options over the counter that you can use to help combat those allergies, to hopefully make sure it doesn't destroy your sense of breathing like it is for me. And then lastly, we have some natural remedies that actually do work out. So honey. So have you ever heard, Sandy, of kind of homegrown honey as a way to stop allergies? Have you heard of this before?
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's great. So there's a lot of good studies suggesting that, farm-raised honeys or local honeys, if you have the honey that has the capabilities to give you the response to not have as big of an allergy attack as you would normally. So for a lot of my patients and myself, during this time of the year, I try to get homegrown honey from, local sources, have like a teaspoon of that every single day. Number one, it tastes good, but also number two, it can give me hopefully a better immune response so I'm not having as much allergies. So I am doing all this to minimize my stuffy nose and my sneezing and my watery eyes.
That is a good plan, and for the rest of us, because as the spring continues on, everything's going to start blooming.
Oh, man.
It's going to cause problems.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, Dr. Islam, we are in the middle of March Madness right now, and all of our teams are playing. Sadly, Texas Tech lost. I'm not sure how your teams are doing, but I've heard that there is, kind of a sports depression among fans. Is that truly a thing?
Yes, it is true. So, sports obviously brings us a lot of enjoyment. I enjoy sports myself. I love rooting for my teams. But yes, it is true that whenever you either lose that sport because the season's over or your team is lost or your bracket's busted like mine, it is a time for depression. Here's the reason why. It's because sports brings us together. We have parties, we get together, we communicate with each other, we have our brackets that we're always talking to each other and our friends about. And then when your team loses, you lose that sense of community. You lose that sense of togetherness. And so because of that, that brings on those depressive feelings as well. So same thing for me, whenever football is done, I lose those Sundays with my friends where I'm talking trash, having barbecues, enjoying football. And so that season actually ends. And so that community actually ends as well. So it's more of a sense of loss of community. And more studies are showing that the loss of community or being isolated actually triggers a lot of anxiety and depression in a lot of individuals. It's what happens whenever you lose sports or your team gets losses or your team loses as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know I'm super into fantasy football, and it's just so much fun.
Yes.
When it's over, it's over.
Yes.
What else is next?
I know exactly right. I feel the exact same way whenever football ends, whenever the playoffs are over, whenever my bracket gets busted and my teams have lost during this March. So yes, it is real, it is legitimate, and you shouldn't feel bad if you feel a little depressed whenever these things happen.
That's great. And is there ever a time when people are too into their team?
Yes. So when it consumes your life to the point where your every emotion is settled on that, you ignore your friends, you ignore your family, at that point in time, that may be a problem. And so I want to make sure that, with everything you want to do in moderation, and if you're able to maintain that balance of, have a life, enjoy your sports, but don't make your sports overtake you unless that's your actual job. You want to make sure that you have time for things beyond just these sporting activities that you enjoy.
And, I was thinking about this too. Obviously, I'm not a college athlete or a professional athlete, but, for these college athletes who are playing in March Madness currently, a lot of times those seniors, it might be their last time on a national stage to play their favorite sport. Does depression affect them when it's over?
Yes, it does. There are countless stories of athletes who either couldn't make it to the NBA, the NFL, who kind of peaked in college in terms of their athletic abilities, and they just went down a spiral of depression, anxiety. They couldn't hold a job because their identity was tied to them being an athlete. And not only an athlete, one of the best athletes maybe on their team. And when you lose that identity, this is the problem that occurs whenever people don't have that. So it's the same thing with retirement as well. So a lot of people work at a job for, decades, but the minute they retire, they lose that identity. I am no longer a doctor. I am no longer a plumber. I am no longer this and that. And so that actually caused a lot of people, because they lose their identity, to go into depression because they don't know who they are anymore. They didn't develop any other skills, any other habits. So same thing in sports, same thing in life as well. You got to make sure that you're well-rounded and that not one area is taking, all encompassing in terms of your identity and who you are.
Yeah, that's very sound advice. And like you always say, work on a hobby, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You want to find something outside of work, whether it's, what I do, watching movies, hanging out with my friends and family, or doing something else. You want to find something outside of your normal work. A, it's good for you. Number two, it can give you an identity beyond your work. But also number three, it can help out with things like anxiety and depression to kind of calm things down. Because, work is stressful. It's stressful for all of us. And finding a way to decompress in a constructive manner is the way I want you to do it.
Yeah. So do you have any coping mechanisms for sad sports fans or, those of us?
In that predicament.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So, one thing I would recommend is, still continue the community. Still hang out with your friends. Even if your sports are not being played, you still have that community of friends you want to hang out with. So whether it's joining another sport or maybe playing that sport on your own, have that sense of community that's there. It's that community that's the trigger that allow you to not have depression. And it's that loss of community that leads depression to occur. So find another way to maintain that community, number one. Number two, like I mentioned before, is find another hobby you can incorporate as well. So maybe right now basketball is done because your team is gone. Well, develop a hobby in another area that may be not contingent on the schedule of sports. So for example, maybe pottery, maybe you enjoy film, maybe you enjoy writing and reading, join a reading club. Find a hobby that's not contingent on the sports season. That way you're not having that problems with those ebbs and flows of depression whenever the sports ends. But these are two things. It's all about community, Sandy. Community, community, community. This is what you need to do.
That is so huge. And we'll be right back. We're going to talk about the microbiome. Okay, Dr. Islam, this is a popular topic. I don't even know why I said that.
Oh, it
I
is.
don't know if it's popular.
It is. I see it everywhere on TikTok, on social media. People are doing all sorts of things. So this is a great topic.
So what is our microbiome?
So in your gut, you have trillions of bacteria, fungi, and viruses that are constantly interacting with the environment, with what you eat, with stress, with sleep, and it is literally the second brain. And it affects so many things inside your body: mood, depression, anxiety, weight loss, weight gain, gut issues, non-gut issues, autoimmune diseases. We are seeing that literally a lot of things stem from the gut microbiome, and they manifest out into other symptoms. So it is like a whole orchestra of drama going on inside all of our guts every single day.
That's wild to even think about, because I never thought about it. I know it's obviously very important, but it's crazy. We're going to delve into it.
Yes, yes.
How does the microbiome develop?
So it develops from birth, and there are a lot of things that affect how your gut microbiome is. For example, how you were delivered. Was it a C-section or not? Were you breastfed? Were you given antibiotics whenever you were younger? Were you given antibiotics now? What are you eating? How are you dealing with stress, sleep? There's so many things that play a role when it comes to your gut microbiome that it is almost innumerable what small things can affect it. But we do know the biggest triggers right now for the gut microbiome is what you eat, how you sleep, and how you deal with stress. These are the three kind of big pillars that we know that play the biggest role in terms of affecting your gut microbiome for the better, but also for the worse.
So what are some of those negative effects that we do?
So we do know that, if you have poor sleep, you can literally change your body from the inside out for the worse. Wow. You have worsening bad bacteria, less good guys, and the bad bacteria in turn will trigger an inflammation all throughout the body. So we think that poor sleep is one of the reasons why you have a bad gut microbiome, and that in turn can lead to a lot of other diseases. Weight gain, it can lead to depression, anxiety, autoimmune diseases. That's number one. Stress, we know that stress plays a role in your gut microbiome. The more cortisol that you have, the more it can change the ratio of good guys and bad guys. You have more bad guys that are there. And the more bad guys that you have, the worse in your gut microbiome is going to be. So once again, it's this cascade of inflammatory effects occurring. And then lastly, what you eat. So if you eat food that are ultra processed, that are ultra refined, with a lot of alcohol, with a lot of other ingredients and additives, this can also change how your gut microbiome is. And this is why there's been a big push for removing additives and putting better labels on what we eat, because we're seeing more and more that what we eat affects who we are, and by affecting what we eat, we actually can change us and make us feel better, but also really minimize these long-term diseases that are affecting millions of people every single day.
How do we know if we have those bad guys?
Yeah, I know. It's a good question. That's $1 million question, Sandy. This is the crux of GI, is that we don't quite have a good test for us to know if you have these bad guys or not. There are a lot of tests out there on social media that people can order. And what I tell patients that you're going to lose a lot of money and it's not going to give you any good information. So we don't currently know how to test for that. But what I tell patients is that if you feel like you have a lot of bloating, gas, nausea, heartburn, reflux, you just don't feel good, or if you have autoimmune diseases we can't figure out, brain fog, things like that, the root issue actually may be in your gut. And so if you have those symptoms, I would assume that your gut's the issue, and if we can affect the gut, there's a chance that we can actually make those symptoms feel a lot better. I can tell you my own story where, maybe 15 years ago, I was feeling tired all the time. I had no energy. I had acne. I was just not feeling good. I was like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And then I realized, I was in med school, had a lot of coffee, just eating out all the time, a lot of caffeine, slept terribly. And so I made a dramatic change to my diet. I slept better, I ate better, I exercised more. And I can tell you almost within a couple of weeks, my brain fog lifted. I felt better. My skin looked better. I was, I wasn't losing my hair. I just felt overall better. And I've been able to maintain that. And this is kind of the protocol that we recommend for a lot of our patients, because people don't realize you don't feel bad until you understand what it feels like to feel good. And that's the thing, they get so mired in feeling bad, they feel like that's normal. And it's not normal to be tired all the time. Yeah. It's not normal to have this brain fog. And so this change made a dramatic shift. This is why I'm so passionate about this, because it made a dramatic shift in terms of how I feel.
Yeah, that's incredible. And like you said, it happened rather quickly.
Yes.
Is that the case for everybody who
yes,
makes those changes?
It is. In fact, I'll tell you, one alcoholic drink can change your gut microbiome for the worse. That can last for at least 5 to 7 days. Just one drink.
Wow.
And so the effect can be rapid and can be long lasting. And if you just keep on doing the same insults to your gut over and over again, whether it's poor sleep, poor diet, or poor stress management, it just compounds. But the good thing, Sandy, is that you can fix it very quickly.
Yeah.
Your body does a great job of wanting the good guys to flourish and to be more of. And so if you can make these changes, you can make that adjustment so much easier for you.
That is incredible. And so what's the key?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's an excellent question. So here's what I tell patients is that you want to be on a plant-centric diet. Okay. So this doesn't mean, eat all plants. That doesn't mean you're only plant only. But try to have more plants than not. And for some people, it may be 10% more, and that's okay. For others, it may be 30% more, and that's okay. For others, it may be 80% more, and that's even better. But do what you can to add more plants. Plants are nature's superpower. They have all the prebiotics, the probiotics, the vitamins, the minerals. They have everything that you need to improve your gut microbiome. And if you just add in more plants, that's all you have to do. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need anything, that's space age. Right. Add in more plants every single day, and slowly you can start to build up that microbiome. And you can still enjoy your burgers and your meat. That's okay. Just incorporate more vegetables and try to change that ratio just over time.
That's amazing. And here's a question, though. So what if we love green beans and strawberries? Can we eat green beans and strawberries, or do we need to mix it up?
Do it. No, I will tell you, the best way to improve your gut by far is to have a wide variety of plants and vegetables and fruits. That's the best thing. So the more variety you can do, the better it is for you. But here's the thing, man. If you enjoy strawberries and green beans and that's all you want, go for it. Okay. And that's fine. That's better than nothing. And so if that's okay, that's perfectly fine. But the more variety that you have, the better it is for you.
Amazing. I love that. Okay, so let's talk about something that I think is maybe a little gross. I have heard, I don't know if this is true, that there, I guess, used to be a pill people could get, skinny people's poop for others, and they could just take that pill and it would help them lose weight.
So, Stan, let me tell you, that is disgusting. Okay, so you're not the only one to think that, okay? Even me as a GI doctor, yes, and that is true. It's called a fecal transplant. You're exactly right.
Okay, so explain to me, why does this work even, and how did we come to discover this?
Yeah, so you'd be surprised. So a fecal transplant, the idea has been around since the 5th century BC.
Whoa.
So it's been around for a long time. We have recorded studies of people in the ancients actually doing something similar and doing this for gut health or for health overall. So this idea has been around for a long time. Now, the science behind this is that the gut microbiome is the root cause for a lot of issues: bloating, GI issues, nausea, weight gain, weight loss, depression, anxiety. And the idea is, if you can change the gut microbiome as rapidly as you can to a good microbiome, you can feel better, you can look better, you can minimize autoimmune diseases. And this is the idea behind a fecal transplant, is that you literally get someone else's poo that's healthy, you put it in yourself in whatever way that you can, and by changing the gut microbiome from the inside out, you're actually, it's like reseeding the soil and allowing the plants to grow that you want to grow. And that's exactly what's going on. You're just resodding the soil inside your gut. And it actually surprisingly works.
That is incredible. And we're going to talk about more of this after the break. Okay, so Dr. Islam, you were saying that it's a fecal transplant.
Yes.
And is this something that you perform in your practice?
Yeah. So let me tell you, I want to make this very clear to everyone watching, listening. I do not recommend that you do this at home. Do not do this. This is not what I want you to do. It's very experimental. It's new. Do not do this. However, in the right clinical setting, in the right medical setting, yes, we have performed this in patients that do need this because they've had serious life-threatening infections in which we know the best treatment is a fecal transplant. So, for example, we had this really bad diarrhea infection called C. diff. Have you heard of this before, Sandy?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so C. diff is a terrible epidemic that typically causes profound and profuse diarrhea, usually from antibiotic use. And the idea behind C. diff is that you take antibiotics, you get rid of all the good guys, and then the bad guys proliferate in your gut microbiome. You have profuse diarrhea, and this can be life-threatening. There have been people who have died from C. diff.
Oh, my gosh.
We know the best treatment for C. diff, which has over a 90% effective rate of curing C. diff, is a fecal transplant. And so there are a good number of patients who tried all sorts of remedies for their C. diff. We couldn't get them cured, and we did a fecal transplant, and boom, overnight, their C. diff went away. They had normal lives. Now, in very limited clinical settings, we will do a fecal transplant in the right patient, in the right setting. However, I am not advocating at all for everyone else to do this. You have to have the right patient under medical supervision to make sure we're doing it for the right indication.
So, I've learned that, and that is very, very serious reason and good reason to do it. But, what if I wanted to lose weight and I'm like, Dr. Islam, I want some skinny people poo.
You want some skinny poo? Well, I'll tell you, Sandy, there's probably better ways to lose weight or easier ways than trying to get someone else's poo in you. There's a lot of easier things you can do besides that. Number 2 is that, like I mentioned before, it's very experimental. It's very new in terms of the research. And so we don't quite know exactly the mechanism, besides kind of the general idea of the gut microbiome being changed, of how someone else's poo can make you skinny, because it has been shown in some studies to do that. And then number 3, we don't have a good way to screen patients to make sure that they have the safest poo for you. Now, we do screen patients to the best of our capabilities, but, some things sometimes get passed through. And so what I would tell you, if you're looking for the skinny poo, I would maybe try other means to hopefully lose weight. And then if you want to pursue this route, let's have a conversation first.
Okay. So could patients come in and be like, Dr. Islam, I want to talk about it? And obviously you would talk to them about it.
Yeah, I'll talk to them about it. And I'll tell them, I'm not going to do it for that reason, because it may actually cause more harm than anything else. In fact, it probably will. But I'm happy to talk about fecal transplants, because you see this all the time on social media. And I'll frankly tell you, a lot of the studies are looking very promising for this. And it looks like it's helping out with irritable bowel syndrome, bloating, diarrhea, C. diff, but also we're seeing some small studies in which it's helping out with other autoimmune diseases. So, for example, autoimmune diseases with arthritis, joint pain, autoimmune diseases inside the brain. And so I don't know where we're going to go with this, but I do foresee a future in which we are treating a lot of autoimmune diseases by getting down to the root cause, which is the gut microbiome. Now, whether that is treating that with a fecal transplant or maybe it's some other medications, I do feel like this is going to be a new wave of medicine in the future, because we're seeing a lot more promising studies for this.
That truly is very fascinating. I never would have imagined it before we started talking about this.
I know. There may be a time, like in 10 years, where yes, you will have a skinny poo pill, Sandy. And maybe I will get a swole poo pill where I can get, ripped and be, who knows? But, we didn't know 10 years ago there's going to be a pill for GLP-1s.
Yeah.
That you can just lose weight just like that. Yeah. And so it's just this research is becoming more and more fascinating. So I do think that in the next 10 to 15 years, this may become the new wave of medicine, is, these ways to manipulate or change the gut microbiome.
So is there a correct microbiome, and I know that's like such a general term, for serotonin production?
Yes, there is. In fact, going back to the plant-based diet, we have seen that a plant-based diet can actually can make your serotonin levels a lot better and more stabilized. And this is why we have seen patients who, once they can change their gut microbiome, they can manage things like their depression and their anxiety a lot easier. Now, it may not be cured, but it's a lot easier to manage that, because we do see that your gut microbiome affects your serotonin levels, which in turn affects the way that you feel and the way you handle stress. So the answer is yes.
That's incredible. And what about milk and lactose protein?
Yes. So a lot of people don't realize that milk and lactose can affect your gut microbiome in a bad way. It's not everyone, but some people can be what's called lactose intolerant. So I'll give you me. For the longest time, I had milk, I had cream, I had cereal. I was like, oh, this is so good. I love this. Then in my 20s, I started noticing, man, I am having a TMI here. A lot of gas, a lot of bloating. It's like, I am passing gas like crazy. My wife was like, bro, what is going on here? And I didn't realize until later on that I became lactose intolerant.
Wow.
And so for a lot of people, as they age, you lose the enzyme to break down the milk, and so you become lactose intolerant, which in turn affects my gut microbiome, because it manifests into other symptoms. And so for some people, you may notice that milk causes you to have symptoms. If that's the case, you may want to minimize that or be on a lactose-free regimen. If you're not one of those, it is fine. However, I will tell you that we are seeing a lot of other negative effects with milk in terms of the fat content and how it's preserved. So the jury's still out on whether you should be taking milk or not.
So the way we figure that out, like, can you test people to see if they have lactose intolerance?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes, we have specific tests for that. But the simplest test is drink some milk and see how you feel. What I tell patients is that there's no test that's better or cheaper than your body's response. It literally is. And so if you're wondering, drink some milk, then ask your loved one, hey, man, am I farting a lot? And they say, yes, you are. There you go. That's your answer.
And Dr. Islam, before we go, just one quick, we're in the middle of Colon Cancer Awareness Month. And just tell me quickly why those age 45 and over need to get their colonoscopies.
Yes, no one should die from colon cancer. And the best way to prevent colon cancer and death from colon cancer is to get your colonoscopy. If you're 45 years and above, get it done. It is covered by your insurance. You have no excuse. Don't be a statistic and don't die from embarrassment.
Thank you so much. And be sure to follow Dr. Islam on all his social media pages. You can see there on your screen. And if you're having any issues, give his office a call and make an appointment. And we'll see you next time.